And hello, good people of the internet. This is Tommy Kelly, and this is, of course, Tommy Kelly Podcast. And we're still coming to you from sunny Ireland, which is a shock to everyone, I suppose, in the world. And it's even got so bad, if you want, in a way that I think officially, although I can't confirm this because it was just a Google alert on my phone at one point. I don't really follow the news. But I think we're in the drought here in Ireland. It's been so long since it rained that we are officially in drought territory, which is interesting for rainy Ireland. So, as far as I know, they're talking about temperatures going into the early 30s. And that's Celsius. If you are an American and you're into Fahrenheit, or just people who are into Fahrenheit in general, I'm sure more than Americans are. I have no idea what that is, so you'll have to Google it if it's something that information that you really need to know. The warmest I've ever been around was 40 degrees when the day I got married in Italy in Lake Garda, and that was extremely warm. But it's very warm here now, and 28 degrees in my office as I record this, which is probably not an accurate ambient temperature because it's I have my blinds down and the doors closed and stuff. So that's the weather report from the Tommy Kelly Podcast. Now on to the traffic. No, but seriously, what I want to talk about in this episode is about losing your own voice or losing your own opinions or your own thoughts or your own beliefs when you're surrounding yourself, in the sea of other magical voices or occult voices and stuff like that, and how easy it is to get caught up in, thinking that your thoughts or thinking that other people's thoughts are actually your thoughts and other people's beliefs are actually, the truth about things. And this came from today. I rejoined the RuneSoup.com premium membership, which is Gordon White over at RuneSoup does like premium courses, and he has done stuff in the Saints, he's done stuff, the new one is the PGM, he's done stuff on Grimoires, on Sigils, and what's the other one? Journeying, yeah. So that's what it is. But there's a host of other stuff you get for the premium thing as well. But about 6 months ago, I kind of I pulled out of it. I was doing it since the start, and I stopped about 6 months ago. And it was and it's absolutely nothing to do with Gordon White or RuneSoup or any of those things at all. It's all me, and it could easily have been anyone else. It's not in any way RuneSoup or Gordon's. Wasn't the catalyst for it. It was other things. At the same time, I left Alan Chapman's Wiser stuff, his meditation thing, and I pulled out of nearly every magical group that I was in on Facebook. It was interesting recently. If you were on the blog recently, you'll see that I did some work with Jason Louv, and that was with the Jack Parsons stuff for the new TV show. Trying to tie in with his book. So you should check that out if you haven't. And we were just talking in general, everything, because we had never spoken together. We were Skyping at the time, just talking about the different thing. And although we'd spoken online and we had, interacted on numerous occasions, never have actually, spoke to each other. And we were just talking in general, just saying that it's so weird, that you can feel like you have these deep, relationships with people online who you've never actually spoken to or never talked to. And when I was talking to my friend who I met a couple of weeks ago, I talked about the podcast. The guy came over from the UK, Safarion, and because he'd listened to a lot of podcasts and the videos and stuff, and he knew so much about me and about my thoughts, but I didn't know him at all. And it's like kind of a fairly one-sided kind of conversation in the sense that, because he feel like he does know me more than I know him because he's heard all these things. And I kind of have that way with Gordon as well, Gordon White, RuneSoup. Whereas like I've, probably listened to more podcasts with Gordon White than any other podcast in the world. I've been following his blog for the longest blog I've ever had any kind of interest in. I want to say 2011, maybe 2012, something like that. So it's like, what, seven years? I've been reading, read his books, all of those things. And like, I've had a couple of interactions with him, but like, just on Twitter, just talking about different things. Like we talked about Stuart Wilde once. He sent me some really nice compliments when I started trying to lose weight and began the weight loss for the soul. He sent some really nice words to me. And we talked around when we were doing AMAs for both CMG and when I was trying to organise the AMA, the first one he did for Reddit. And it was also, of course, I did do the cover, the artwork for his Pieces of 8 book, so there was a lot of emails around that. But the emails around that were literally about the artwork or whatever, so it wasn't, in the same kind of league. It was more of like a business, not a business, well, yeah, businessy type thing, or more, that kind of thing. So it's weird in the sense like I have this kind of relationship with Gordon of knowing all these things, and of course he knows nothing about me, he doesn't know anything about me and stuff like that. So it's kind of to be remembered the stuff that all these the point of that is rather than talking about my relationship with Gordon, is that to think you can think you have these kind of closer relationships in a sense to people on the internet, and that's not just through podcasts, right? Like you can have the same like through if you read enough Robert Anton Wilson or you hang around with Alan Watts. If you listen to an awful lot of Alan Watts, you start thinking like Alan Watts. Or the thing I found when I was listening to an awful lot of Jordan Peterson videos was that I started talking like him in a bit, or my vocabulary changed slightly, or my inflections of my words kind of changed, just because it's that's what I'd been not associate myself, surrounding myself with or whatever, and exposing myself to. The same if you go to a different country, a different part of the country, whatever, you start picking up the accent, particularly of any sort of musical ear or whatever. So in all of these things so you have like if I was reading all the books by Alan Chapman, and I've read them a lot. His 3 books, the Baptist Head trilogy that he did with Duncan Barford and stuff. So I have a lot of Alan Chapman in my head as well, a lot of Ramsey Jukes, a lot of, as I said, Gordon White, Jason Miller in there as well, a bit of Pete Carroll, and a bit of Crowley, I suppose, too, and any number of things and all these things. And then also I'd been talking an awful lot in CMG, which is the Chaos Magic group on Facebook. I've been in a number of other forums as well. Or Occult on Reddit was one of the big things as well. And there's this kind of whole feel of what chaos magic had become in a sense. And Gordon has goes down in a different way than other people in that he's like there's like almost a Christian element to it, but without being Christian, like, 'cause he was into the saints and working with the saints and stuff like that. He has the grimoire stuff where it's rather than where I suppose initially chaos magic would have been about, the belief is the important aspect of it, like that the belief is the tool, belief is the thing that makes it work. Gordon would have more of it that it might have more of a physical thing in nature, not physical in the sense of but that it's more like, that the astrology is a thing, or there's actual things. That would probably be the best way to describe it, that magic is an actual thing that you can point at and look at and probably work out how it works and all that, rather than it just being that you believe that it works. That is the reason why it works. So there's a kind of a tactile, tangible reality to magic that can be discovered or whatever. And that's kind of, it seems to me anyway, that's where Gordon is going down, looking for the reality behind the thing, the truth behind these things, rather than just the pure chaos magic thing of believe it and it's your belief that is making the thing happen. Kind of almost like in a sense like the way Jason Miller would be very much like, because he has a hoodoo stuff and all like that, would be into using actual ingredients and actual things like talismans and incenses and the different, say, herb spice, all those type of things that you would find in, say, hoodoo. Not that Jason Miller's the big hoodoo man, but it'd be part of that kind of thing where there's actual materia, magic materia, rather than the belief. So the magic actual component Jason would put forward is that is part of the instruments or the ingredients you use in your magic, not just that you believe that by using these they will get you as well. So there's that kind of realness of it as well. Alan Chapman is probably more into the enlightenment kind of end of it, or the wiser practice of it, as he would call it now, to becoming that whole thing that he once would have talked about, the knowledge and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, or enlightenment, becoming the thing you're meant to be without the false ideas that you have about life and all that kind of, breaking through the illusions and stuff like that. Pete Carroll has his maths. I don't know how they work. I'm not enough. I don't know anything about maths enough to know whether that works. And Liber Null is quite dated in many ways. Ramsey Jukes of all them is probably the closest I to my own thoughts about what magic is, in that he does, from what I can gather from my own reading of it, believe that it's you're bringing most of it to the table. So in all of that, I had found myself at one point, it was around Christmas, and I'm hazy on the details. Could have been before Christmas, could be January, something like that. It all had just got too much, where I was kind of going, there was a point where I said something on the podcast or in a video, maybe it was just in a conversation to someone, and I said something as a statement of fact of something I believed. And as soon as I said it, I kind of went, oh, hold on, do I actually believe that? Or is that something that Gordon White believes? And I've just taken on as a truth, in a sense, without kind of challenging it or anything, or even having a thought of it. And I was kind of going, that's a bit weird. So I thought that like, because it seemed to me that my magic was going down places that I wasn't really into and stuff like that, and I needed to pull back away from all of these other voices and all of these other things, and stop being absorbed in other people's ideas of magic or whatever, or life in general, not just magic, like a whole host of things. So at that point, I left all the places. I left Rune Soup. I left CMG. Well, I didn't really leave CMG. I left CMG as an admin, but I unfollowed the group, so I have to go into it as well. And I left all of the groups that magic groups on Facebook that I was in. Same as I just stopped hanging out in Oral Cult on Reddit and all these things. And I just tried to spend a bit of time. I stopped reading magic books, other than the couple that I read for the book club that we were doing as part of the podcast. And I was just trying to find out what my own ideas and on an awful lot of these things were. And it reminded me, strangely enough, of past kind of items, past experience that I had in my graphic novel, Them, which is somewhat biographical well, it's fairly biographical. All of my stuff's biographical, but it's not actually about my life. It's a fictional character, obviously, rather than, because the guy's called Roman, and he's a painter guy. But the whole kind of gist of it is that he gets haunted like by these zombie type beings, which are basically other people's ideas and thoughts and things that have been, that people have said to him or have thought about him, or he thought had people said about him, like horrible remarks that people may have told him, or different things, like say his dad told him or his art teacher. And it all kind of follows him around like this, tribe of zombies, and they're all very sticky and he can't get away from them and stuff like that. And he's become engulfed in the whole thing. And without spoiling too much of it, I suppose it's they start going a bit like a tar, like a black tar or whatever, and sticking to him, and totally engulfs the whole of him, so that he can't separate himself from these voices and his own voice. He can't hear any. He doesn't know any different than hearing all these other voices. Now, while that's kind of a thing that's more about depression than anything else, there's a similar kind of thought when I was so deep into other people's ideas and magic, and surrounding myself with all these different voices. I suppose the best way it was that I didn't know what my own voice was. I didn't know what I actually thought about things, and what my beliefs were. But the downside of pulling away from all that and all that is that when you're not surrounding yourself with magic ideas or magic people, or, if you're not reading about magic, or you're not kind of actively working it, what I found is I did an awful lot less magic, to the point that it's a very seldom thing that I do magic at all now. But that's not true, because in a formal kind of sense, like I couldn't tell you last time I did sigil, but I do an awful lot of like intentional type stuff, which is stuff I was kind of always into anyway. A lot of incense offering and candles and stuff like that. And the journey work that we do through the Patreon, they're still using servitors, and they're still using daily offerings, and there's different teams and stuff like that. So there's plenty of kind of magic in the sense, but I'm not doing magic in the sense of, say, sigils and shoaling, or any of that kind of stuff that I used to do an awful lot of. I'm not doing any kind of stuff that, say, I would have learned in the Jason Miller strategic sorcery course. Nothing at all from that. Or any, like, say, the Dragon Rogue stuff, or any of these things. Not using runes, not using pendulums, not using any of the stuff that I at one stage had very much got into it. I'm still doing my meditation, I'm still doing yoga, which I think are very important. I'm still a magical acts in many ways, and I'm still creating. My photography I would definitely see as a magical thing. But I could very easily, had I never, looking at my life right now, that if I didn't have a magic podcast and a magic website, in a sense, that I wouldn't be any different. I wouldn't really be doing any much different from someone who says they're not into magic or doesn't know anything about magic. Like me, who purports or puts forward that I'm a magician, a chaos magician. My life, my day-to-day life, isn't fundamentally different from someone who wouldn't call themselves, who would just call themselves a normal person. I wouldn't label themselves in any way. It's like that my act and my practice in some way has become non-magical. And this was kind of brought home to me last Friday, in a way, in that I had a day where I had countless syncs, like so many of them, that it was so fun. Like it was like bang, 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 bang after another. And it's been so long since I had that. And that used to be a fairly constant state for me at one point, where I'd have all these things, or I'd be noticing the winks and the nods from the universe, or that the exploding star stuff I've talked about before, or any of these things, where all the things kind of lined up or whatever. And now, it's a rarity that has happened, so much so that when it did happen a number of times in a row, that it was like a treat in many ways. So I feel like I've kind of fallen back out of magic too much, which is, the pendulum swing. You have to go with it, and you probably have to go too far to get the momentum back. Which is why this morning I decided that now was the time to get back into actual magic, and start listening to other people again and try to stoke the fire of that whole magic thing for me, And it's not that that I've totally went off magic or any of those things. It's just I've aimed in a different direction, like the shadow work stuff and the meditative stuff and the self help and the self stuff that we're doing with the journey. That's tough work. That's a lot of work, and you don't want to be overloading yourself with trying to do magic stuff. And the other thing is that an awful lot of magic, when I think of magic, is for getting the things, for the shiny things. And I've talked about the occult shiny acquisition syndrome thing before, and it came from the game of Saturn, wanting to get the Solabuska cards, whatever, and at that point going, no, and that was another part of thing that I needed to get away from as well, because I was collecting all the stuff, all the things, getting all the books, getting all the towers, all the decks, all the, and just collecting stuff. It's going, I don't need any of this stuff. And that's kind of, I suppose, I started feeling that about other people's voices too. I don't need, this is too much stuff. There's too much stuff. So, and a thing that the magic thing as well is that while I'm into the kind of not the enlightenment, that's not the right word, the self-help or the self-improvement aspect of magic, it doesn't feel like real magic, because to me, I have this kind of stupid idea in my head that magic, you do a sigil to get something rather than to become a better person. And my life is okay. At one point, I'd have to be really careful about saying this, because I've said on the podcast once, I don't know, a couple months ago, that right at this minute, everything was fine. Like, and I mentioned that financially everything was fine, and that anything that came along, I was kind of covered. And it was like the universe just pointed at me and laughed. And within hours, things came that totally showed me that I was not in as great a financial situation as I came. Like, something came up and I went, oh, hold on, I don't have the money to cover this, having just literally said on a podcast hours before that things were in a good place. So there's plenty of lessons still to be learning in that thing. But overall, like, my relationship with my wife's going good. The baby's on its way. It seems everything seems healthy. There's things I could be working on physically, but I'm doing my meditation, doing my yoga, doing the following my diet, my healthy eating. I'm eating really well and all these things. And I don't want any more stuff, and I suppose I'm withholding or pulling back or not allowing myself to do magic things for stuff in the way I used to. So that could possibly feel like why there's less magic going on as well. I suppose there's plenty of things I could be sigilling for, and I'm just not. And so there seems to be some sort of block there as well. So I'm hoping that get back into the Gordon White stuff, the rune soup stuff, will give me that kind of catalyst to move over and get into more, actually doing the whole hashtag do magic type thing. But I do think, to wrap it, or to bring it back around to what I was talking about, that it is important. Certainly was important for me, and it's something that I suggest have you look at. It might be an issue for you at all. Probably won't for some of you, but I suspect it will be for a lot of you. And when you're listening to people, including myself, and I'm first on the list, or you're reading books, you're hanging out in forums, or you're just generally talking to your magic friends, whatever, to remember that all of that is just other people's ideas and other voices and, their beliefs and all that. And you don't necessarily have to hold on to them. If everyone in your chaos magic circle believes that belief is a tool and that is the fundamental, factor of why magic works, and you don't, it's okay to not think that. In my opinion, you may have a different opinion to think that it is far from okay to think that. But just to understand that sometimes just check your beliefs, check your things. And it's more than just magic. Like, it's that whole thing of thinking of, do I actually believe that about people? Or is that something my father thought was, and I just took that as for granted and took that on board? Or is that, money is the root of all evil, which I know is not the actual quote. But is that, do I believe that, or is that just something my mum said to me, or is that happening because my cousin said that to me, or do I have these thoughts? And check your thoughts, and check your beliefs, and see, are they actually yours, or the society beliefs, family beliefs, or the my beliefs? Tommy Kelly's beliefs. Is it something you heard me say and you've decided was true, or whoever it is? And just spend some time, which I suppose what meditation is meant to do. But meditation is more trying to clear your mind. But spend some time on your own and trying to work out what it is that you actually think, and what it is that you believe to be true, and what works for you. Like, it's that thing I've spoken before, where the law of attraction works really well for me at times. It works really well when I believe in it. Funny enough, that. But because it's so not cool at all. And in Chaos Magic circles, it's just, it's looked down at and all that. It's something I kind of neglected or whatever, and kind of poo-pooed and downplayed, even though it's way more successful than me. Not way more successful than me than sigils, or certainly more successful than any kind of spirit work or petitioning of saints or any of that things, or asking God, or whatever it is I've done. Like the law of attraction, the beliefs. Now that I think, probably the thing that works most for me is actually overcoming things and fixing things out in my head or in my life. Tangent time. This is time in the podcast where it's tangent. We're walking in the street yesterday with my wife and Nancy, and we're just talking. And I was saying that there's a funny kind of thought that came to me, and I've mentioned this before, but that when you sort something out in your life, a problem, like say it's like jealousy or envy, or your relationship with your cousin or your brother or your boss or something, that because that seems to be holding things up, there seems to be a block in other areas of your life. So much so that there was a particular problem relationship that I was having, that until I start making any kind of headroads into trying to solve, that there was all huge other areas of my life that were being blocked, that weren't just happening, that were like really getting run down or whatever, not related at all, but whatever that blockage was that was being caused by this relationship or this problem relationship, that as soon as I tried to start solving that and start moving, as if the tap opens up again, or the well opens up, or that the water is allowed, or the energy, the chi, the vril, whatever it is allowed to flow back into your life. So that's the thing that I definitely feel works more than law of attraction, works more than sigil, or any of the things, is when you sort out parts of your life, or you work on things, and you've developed yourself as a person, or you've improved some sort of relationship, or whatever it is, that it's as if those things block all your life, the whole flow of your thing. And it's until you start sorting these out. It's almost like, as I've said before, it's almost like that when you're playing a computer game and you beat the end boss, and then you get some sort of bonus. And that's the thing. But like, it doesn't have to be connected to it or whatever. So yeah, that's all kind of I really have to say about all of that kind of thing. It's just that I'm looking forward to getting back into, I suppose, listening to other voices and getting more opinions, getting some feedback and other things, and hearing what other people, what adventures other people have been up to, and what all of these things. Might join a few more magic groups again. I might not. I don't have as much time as I used to, and I'll have less time as it goes on when the baby arrives. But it's just to reiterate, it's worth, if you find yourself that you're getting a bit lost in all of these different opinions and all of these different things. It doesn't have to be in magic, it can be in life in general, it can be whatever area of life. It's just so happened to me that it was in magic. Just to check in with yourself, and spend some time on your own. Maybe take a break from all that. Stop reading. If all you're reading, I was so guilty of this. If all you're reading is magic books, start reading some fiction. That is really good. And don't read magic fiction. Read something completely different. Then stop reading just magic books all the time. Because I just did that for years, and it does strange things to your head. Start writing some stuff. Come up with your own ideas, and try not to rehash as other people. But come up with, like, having listened to all these other people, come up with your own conclusions, and bring your own thing to the table or whatever. Or just take a break from it for a while. Maybe take a break from the other voices, from the books, from the forums, from the things, and maybe, if that's the case, like me, you stop doing magic to the same extent, or you stop doing it in the same way you were doing it and do it in other ways. That's cool too. You'll eventually come back to it, or you won't. But yeah, I think that's all that I really have to say in that. So, yeah. And that was another episode of the Tommy Kelly Podcast. And if you'd like to listen to more of these wonderful, wonderful, my dulcet tones, then you can go to tommykellypodcast.com, and that is TOMMIE. And that'll bring you to all of the other podcasts. There's a whole playlist there from SoundCloud, but you don't have to just listen on SoundCloud. You can get it on the iTunes, you can get it on Pocket Casts, you can get it on Stitcher, you can get it in all the places. If you use a particular podcatcher that it doesn't work with, will you let me know, and I will try to sort that out. Can't guarantee I will, because I've been trying to get it on Spotify for ages, and that's just not happening for some reason. So if you know how to get onto Spotify, let me know. I filled in that form 2 or 3 times at this point, and they're just not interested. Maybe it's just the content. Maybe it's just that I'm crap. Who knows? So if you want to know more about me in general, you can go to adventuresinwoowoo.com, and there's an about page that will tell you somewhat about me. There's also all the information you could possibly ever want about the 40 Servants now. And incidentally, I just want to point out that the Witch print is still on sale. So if you want to get that, it's an A3 signed and number print. Go for that. There's still a good few of them left. The deluxe box set is out, which is a lovely little box, a bigger sized deck of the 40 Servants, and has the 4 devils in it. And that's going well. People are really happy with that, really like it. I'm working on a pocket-sized version of the Grimoire, because the Grimoire is quite expensive, because the print colour is quite expensive. So I'm going to do one without the pictures, sigils will still be in it, and try to have it as concise and succinct as possible, so that it's like a pocket-sized, travel-sized thing, so it'll be super cheap and stuff like that. As well as I want to do a travel-sized deck, so smaller deck for people running around, trying to do that super cheap as well, so that people who want print stuff can get it, rather than just using the free stuff. If you want to use the 40 Servants free, you can simply go to adventuresinwoowoo.com, and you can either go to the archive page or just search for 40 Servants for free, and that'll bring you to all the resources you could need to use the 40 Servants for free, for both magic and for divination. If you want to know more video about me, you can go to the YouTube channel. There's loads of stuff there, loads of stuff in the 40 Servants video course, and the podcast is there as well. I'm hoping to try and get some more podcast or videos done for the YouTube channel that aren't just the 40 Servants stuff, but it's just getting the time. Time's just getting away from me at the minute. If you'd like to help out, please like and share, and tell people all about the podcast, the website, the 40 Servants, and all of those things. Really helps. Leaving ratings, all of those things are great. Or you can go to my Patreon, which is tommykelly.com. Again, that's TOMMIE, and send me some of your money, which I massively appreciate. In return, I will give you some PDFs of my comics, the PDF of the Grimoire, the download of the 40 Servants cards, so you can print them yourself. There's flashcards. There's the Journey, which is a monthly themed meditation shadow work thing using servitors. We're into month 7 of that, but you can start from the beginning at any point. And yeah, that's it. If you want to check out my photography, it's on adventuresfromwoowoo.com, or you can get me on Instagram at Tommy Kelly. There is a Facebook page, Tommy Kelly Artist. There's the 40 Servants Facebook group. There's the Adventures in Woowoo Facebook page. I'm on Twitter at Tommy Kelly. I'm all over the place. So good people of the internet, may your week be wonderful. May you find yourself knowing your own voice and your own opinions. May you not be drowned by the voices of others. But that's not to say that we should ever rule it out completely or to push them all away. It's good to listen to other people, but just to acknowledge our own beliefs and our own thoughts, and just not take on things on board just because some sort of authority or some sort of person we enjoy or respect says something doesn't necessarily mean we have to agree with them or take it on board. So good people of the internet, be well.